If you live in the United States, the Federal Communication Commission is going to make it legal for internet service providers to mess with your internet connection on December 14th. So if you're old enough to vote and you don't want Comcast or Verizon to muck around with your internet connection, then use the links in the description to get the contact information for your congresspeople. Then email or call them to say that you are against the FCC passing the Restore Internet Freedom Act, and that you are in favor of internet service providers being subject to the Title II provisions of the Communications Act of 1934. Now, if you want more background on this, then stick around and I'll go into more detail. Right now, when you want to access Netflix, Amazon, or YouTube, your internet service provider, whether they are Comcast, Verizon, or AT&T, must give you that access at the same speed as all other websites. They can make the whole internet slower or faster for you, but they can't make some sites faster or slower than other sites. So even though Verizon would probably love to slow down your access to YouTube to tempt you into using their Go90 site instead, they can't. And that's because of a principle called net neutrality. Net neutrality says that internet service providers can't change the way they serve us information based on where that information came from or where it's going. They can't provide fast, stable internet access to Hulu, but not give that same fast access to Netflix. They have to give everyone the same access to the entire internet. That's good, because it makes every website just as easy to access as any other website, which means that all the sites compete with each other fairly. This competition is a big part of how the internet got so great. At the time this video is being uploaded, net neutrality is enforced by the Federal Communications Commission. If Verizon or Comcast try to pull any slow-down shenanigans on sites they don't like, the FCC can stop them. The FCC can do this because right now, ISPs are subject to the Title II provisions of the Communications Act of 1934. Unfortunately, that's about to change. The FCC is about to remove the classification that puts ISPs under the Title II provisions with the inappropriately named Restore Internet Freedom Act on December 14th. Don't be tricked by the word freedom in the title. The freedom, in this case, refers to ISPs being free to slow down internet traffic that they don't like. So when you hear people talking about creating a free internet, make sure they're not talking about ISPs being free of regulation. That is not the same thing as the internet being free of ISP meddling. Don't let them mislead you with their word choice. They might also try and mislead you by pointing out that the internet was working just fine without the regulations before 2015. That's true, but that was because that was before the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit had ruled that the FCC did not have the jurisdiction to punish Verizon for violating net neutrality in 2014. Before that, everyone believed that the FCC could enforce net neutrality, so everyone avoided violating it. Since all the ISPs believed they couldn't slow down their sites without being punished, they didn't try to. Now that everyone knows that the old Title I rules didn't actually stop them, the old Title I rules won't work anymore. Some might also try to throw you off by claiming that the regulations of the Communications Act of 1934 were meant for telephone companies in the 1930s, and that they're too outdated to apply to the modern internet. I have two issues with that argument. The first is that those regulations were overhauled by the Telecommunications Act of 1996, so they are not nearly as out of date as they're made out to be. My second issue is that the Title I regulations that ISPs used to be under before 2015 were created at the same time as the Title II regulations. They're the same age. No one can claim that the Title II regulations are too old while also saying that the Title I regulations are not. Now, some of the ISPs might claim that they won't try and mess with our internet traffic, but I don't trust them. We have plenty of examples of them messing with our access in the past. In 2012, AT&T announced that it would disable FaceTime on the iPhones of any customers that did not subscribe to their more expensive mobile share service plans. From 2011 to 2013, AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon blocked Google Wallet in order to give an advantage to their own payment service called ISIS. Yes, ISIS. In 2011, MetroPCS announced plans to block streaming video from any site except for YouTube. There is plenty of precedent for ISPs using their position to make things harder for sites they don't like. So why are we going to let ISPs do things like this again? Well, the FCC's explanation for doing this is that the Title II regulations were hurting investment in ISPs. However, The ISPs themselves told their own investors that the regulations weren't putting any strain on them. Companies are legally required to be honest about risk factors like this to their investors. So if they tell their investors that the regulations aren't hurting them financially, they must not be hurting them financially. So what can we do to stop this? Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about this directly. The FCC is composed of people who are appointed, not elected, so they don't need to worry about losing an election. They do have an open forum for citizens to post comments, but it's been compromised by huge numbers of fake comments, so that might be a lost cause. We can still call our representatives in Congress, though. I'll put links in the description of this video that will lead you to the contact details of your representatives. So if you want to do something to help make sure that Verizon can't slow down YouTube, call or email your congresspeople. Make sure to tell them specifically that you are against the FCC passing the Restore Internet Freedom Act, and that you want ISPs to remain subject to the Title II provisions of the Communications Act of 1934. Probably do it in your own words, though. If everyone says exactly the same thing, they might think that you're reading a script and that you don't understand what you're talking about. Alright, that's all for now. Hopefully, whatever happens, I'll still be able to keep making videos on YouTube, and you can all keep watching them. Goodbye!